You ever walk up to a shop in-game and while browsing all of their goods, you think to yourself, where do they get everything? Probably not, because in a majority of games, it's not worth thinking about where shop items come from, but Skyrim is more fleshed out and lived in compared to other games. I mean, it's got farms and mines and even breweries that could supply a city with needed items. So, with that said, do the supplies of Skyrim's Whiterun make sense when considering the areas and resources surrounding it? To answer this, I made a spreadsheet of all of the items sold in Whiterun and determined the base materials needed to make them. So for example, banded iron armor would require that the blacksmith selling it have leather, iron, and corundum on hand to forge it, while someone selling a tomato would, well, just require a tomato. Now let's start with the most essential resources and work our way up to the more complex shops. So, let's look at the foods of Whiterun. The main food vendors are Carlotta Valencia, the Bannered Mare, Belethor's General Store, and Anoriath. Wait, did I say that right?
Anoriath.
Okay, close enough. Carlotta sells a variety of foods that require her to have access to cow and goat milk for cheeses, cabbage, brook bass, green and red apples, leeks, potatoes, tomatoes, and Alto wine. Let's ignore the bass, apples, and wine for now, and focus on the remaining items and see if the surrounding farms produce what is sold. Now there are 4 main farm locations spread outside of Whiterun. Pelagia Farm, for example, produces cabbage, potatoes, leeks, and has a cow for milk. Oddly, this farm also has a wheat mill, even though no wheat is produced here. What secrets are you hiding, Windmill? Oh. Now Chilfaro Farm makes wheat and cabbage, and next door, Battleborn Farm produces wheat, leeks, gourds, and has a single cow for milk. Wait, do these cows even have udders? What do you know? And then last, Lorius Farm has Cicero, leeks, cabbage, potatoes, wheat, and 2 cows. Ooh, wow, they're really showing off with having 2 bovines. Oh, and they also have a single goat, which may initially appear to be male, but it could be female, as many different varieties of goats do have females with horns. And while normally the female's variety of horns are usually smaller and thinner than the male's, I'm going to assume that this one is female because the milk has to come from somewhere, and that responsibility rests solely on this one goat for all of Whiterun. Ugh, imagine the chafing. Most of the farms also have chickens for meat and eggs. Now obviously the city of Whiterun could import additional food products from further away, but back during medieval periods, large cities would usually only get the basic foods from nearby farms, and rarely import these basic food products from further away. Okay, sure, Skyrim's map is only 14 square miles in size, but saying that any city can get any food from anywhere is just boring, and Skyrim's map isn't really realistic in terms of the scale that a real-life town or farm would be. So I'm making the choice that everything is just a scaled-down version of how real life would present itself. Realistically, Whiterun would be much bigger, and the 4 surrounding farms would not be able to support a full-size town at their current size, and also need to be bigger. But going under the assumption that everything is just a scaled-down version of real life makes that issue disappear and allows the video to continue. Okay, will you please leave me alone while I'm recording? He has been here the whole recording session.
You mad, bro?
So to summarize, it can be inferred that Carlotta here has some distribution set up with the 4 local farms surrounding Whiterun to sell at least some of the produce that they grow. She will then sell the veggies while making the milk into different cheeses back at her house in her cooking pot. She can then either fish up brook bass in the nearby White River, or pay somebody else to secure the fish for her, and then she fries them up to sell them to the townspeople. The odd ones out from her selection of goods are tomatoes, apples, and Alto wine. Tomatoes are an interesting case, because like apples, there are no tomato plants found anywhere in Skyrim. But surprisingly, that does make sense. You see, tomatoes require somewhat higher temperatures to grow, around 70 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, and well-fertile land. And with how cold of an area Skyrim is, I doubt it can maintain a high enough temperature consistently to grow tomatoes. Fortunately, you know where tomato plants can be found? In Oblivion. Look at how good these tomato plants look in the Oblivion remake. And with that game being set in Cyrodiil, which is south of Skyrim, the climate is likely warmer, making it much more realistic for tomatoes to grow there. So it seems Carlotta likely purchases tomatoes from traders coming up north from Cyrodiil to sell within Whiterun. Now as for apples, no apple trees can be found within Skyrim, Oblivion, or Morrowind. And as we all know, Elder Scrolls started with the third installment, for some reason. Nope. I have never heard of any other Elder Scrolls game. Nope. Okay, I'm pretty sure that there are no apple trees in Daggerfall or any of the other games, but I'm not as sure. There must be some apple guild like the Thieves Guild hiding within the region, secretly depositing apples into barrels and into the pockets of bandits. Oh, and you know what's funny? Unlike tomatoes, Skyrim makes an excellent place for apples to grow. You see, apples require cold winters and then mild summers reaching about 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 to 24 degrees Celsius. And with Skyrim being up north, it definitely meets the cold requirements, and it can likely reach some lightly higher temperatures during the summer months, depending on the area of Skyrim. There's even a variety of apple called the snow apple, which grow in colder areas like Canada or France. So it is very odd not to find any apple trees growing within Skyrim considering how common they are. I guess that secret guild is keeping the apple trees hidden. And now last on our list is Alto Wine. Nowhere in Skyrim can I find a winery. Now there are Jazzbay grapes within Skyrim, but no place specifically established to turn them into wine that I can find. And when breaking into Carlotta's house, I found no method to craft wine anywhere. So I guess that secret apple guild is also making wine from Jazzbay grapes and secretly distributing it to vendors. And knowing Carlotta, she probably gets a discount from them for her looks. So Carlotta seems to have an extensive network of trade with the surrounding farms, and even some traders from the south in Cyrodiil to keep her stall stocked up for her to sell goods in Whiterun. As for Anoriath next door, or next stall I guess, he sells ale, and then a variety of meats that he likely purchases from nearby farms, like chicken, beef, and goat leg, to those he hunts himself, like rabbit, dog meat, and elk. I know he says he hunts all of the meat that he sells, but I rarely see a wild chicken in Skyrim, so I think that's just a marketing spiel, and he does get some of the meat from farms.
Oh yes.
Yeah, sure you do, buddy. And with that said, he's mostly self-explanatory. Case closed, except for the fact that he sells pheasant. There are no living pheasants found anywhere in Skyrim. Now we do see tons of them being sold as meat, or hanging up in kitchens, but not a single living one, and in these conditions, they are not being imported. So either right before the game starts, every single pheasant was hunted to extinction, or they are just so crafty that the player is never able to see them, as they are always hiding just out of sight or behind the player, with only the most capable of hunters able to capture them, like Anoriath, apparently. So he's straightforward in the fact that his goods come from his outings as a hunter and fisherman, with all of the animals being found in the surroundings of Whiterun. Well, there's actually one more thing to mention, and that's horker meat. These walrus rejects are typically found more up north and near ice, so he's probably not making that trek all too often. So he's likely making trades with hunters more up north while he's out on his hunts, like meeting halfway to exchange catches to sell in their respective towns. And then the ale that he sells is most likely purchased from the Honeybrew Meadery. I know they only have their own personal drink inside, but they could probably make other brews like generic ale using the wheat from the surrounding farms and then selling it to the merchants. And now next on our list is the Bannered Mare. In this establishment, they sell a wide variety of foods to travelers and residents of Whiterun, including various produce as well as some baked goods like apple pie or the boiled cream treats. They also sell some meats and fish. Now, being a tavern, they most likely do not hunt or grow their own food, but instead they likely have arrangements with farms as well as some deals with Carlotta for some of the produce that she sells. And then good old Annie for the meat that he collects from hunting. And then they sell the famous Honeybrew Mead, which is acquired directly from the meadery. The only odd one out are the honey nut treats. And since the player in-game cannot cook them themselves, I'm going to just assume that the ingredients include just honey and nuts. Honey is easy enough to find, with some beehives being found not too far outside of Whiterun, but the nuts are another matter. No nut variety exists anywhere in Skyrim, which does make sense considering the climate. Most nut varieties do not prefer the cold for growing, so it's not the kind of crop that you would see growing in farms or out in the wild of Skyrim. Now, the odd part is that I could not find any nuts within Elder Scrolls except for the ironwood nuts found in Cyrodiil, which are extremely rare. But I guess that must be the nuts used in the treats. So what must be happening here is that the nuts are imported from Cyrodiil into Skyrim, and then the taverns buy them from traveling traders to turn them into the honey nut treats. Maybe that explains why there are just so few ironwood nuts found within Oblivion. Most of the nuts have just been exported to Skyrim. But that's just a theory. Okay, so that's a lot of info on the food network that Whiterun is working with. For a quick breather, let's look at Belethor's general goods store. He sells a bunch of different stuff in here, and of course we have the food items, but also bear pelts, candlesticks, and iron pots. Where does he get these, I wonder? He gets them from random travelers and traders. He says so himself.
I assure you, I'm prepared to make any deal.
He's less a general store and more of a pawn shop. And that's everything about Belethor. With that and the food network out of the way, let's move on over to the armament stores, such as War Maidens, Skyforge, and the Drunken Huntsman. Fralia Greymane here is the blacksmith of the Skyforge, and Adrian is the blacksmith of the War Maidens. So we know that they craft their inventory, but where do they get the material to forge them? Both of these stores sell iron and steel weapons and armor, which require leather and iron ore to create iron weapons, and then the addition of corundum to make steel. Leather is pretty simple to come by. They either hunt animals themselves for pelts to tan, or more likely they purchase pelts directly from Annie here, since he'll sell the meats to the player, but he won't sell us any skins. He must do something with them, and if I was him, I would sell them to local arms merchants as to make a little bit of extra coin. As for iron, while it can be found literally all over the place, with many ore deposits being found right outside the walls of Whiterun, realistically, random veins are not a reliable source of material, so what's more likely is that they are importing them from nearby mines.
As a child, I yearned for the mines, but something always got in the way.
The most likely source of iron for Whiterun is the Embershard mines, as it is the closest mine with iron ore deposits inside. However, there are bandits lurking within the tunnels, so either they are a recent issue or the blacksmiths have some arrangement with the bandits. Now, corundum ore is a bit more rare and it can't be found within the Embershard mines, so Whiterun's gonna have to get it from somewhere else. So instead, they must be importing it from the east in the Golden Rock mines, as it is the nearest mine with corundum ore deposits. And unlike Embershard mines, it's not run by bandits, but instead by the nearby settlement of Darkwater Crossing. So the corundum shipments are probably a lot more consistent, since they're not constantly being slaughtered by the Dragonborn, unlike the bandits. Okay, maybe I struck down a few of the settlers in a parallel universe, but in the main timeline, they're fine. So we've covered the iron and steel, but both stores also sell orcish weaponry, which requires orichalcum, which is even more rare. Fortunately for Whiterun, that can be imported from the nearby mine of Bile Gulch. Ew, Bile Gulch? Who named this place? Of course, orc bandits. Are most of the mines in Skyrim just run by bandits? So I guess Whiterun must have a deal with the bandits controlling Bile Gulch for orichalcum ore. Okay, all of that ore was easy. The real difficult resources are Moonstone and Dwemer Metal. Moonstone cannot be found in any of the nearby mines that we've mentioned previously. But even further east are the Northwind mines, which house a single Moonstone ore deposit. So it's probably imported from there, but in very short supply. But that's probably not a big deal for Whiterun. For those who don't know, Moonstone is used to reinforce Elvish and Glass armaments. And based on the weaponry sold in Whiterun, they're probably not using or selling Moonstone all that much, so it's probably fine it's in short supply. And now this leaves Dwemer Metal, as the War Maiden sells Dwarven Metal ingots, which can only be forged from scraps found in Dwemer ruins. So they probably get them from the nearby ruins under the Tower of Mazark. Nope. That's not it. That way's locked. I forgot. That's locked up tight. Okay, maybe they go to the nearby ruins of Uringthand. Nope, no wait. That's full of bandits. And even if they get past all of them, the place is locked up tight until the Dragonborn opens it. Alright, Ralbethard then. Well, it is unlocked, but it's overrun by bandits led by Alain Dufont, who is trying to stay hidden, so they're probably not looking to draw attention to themselves with trade. Ooh, maybe the ruins of the tower bypasses the bandits. Nope. That is locked up too. Every nearby ruin is either locked, full of bandits, or filled with deadly traps and mechanisms, so the blacksmiths probably are not venturing into the ruins. Well, that's no problem. The ingots must be a one-time purchase that were acquired from an adventurer who knows how long ago. Nope. The ingots are refreshed daily. So somehow, this store can supply multiple metal ingots made of rare metal that can only be found in blocked-off ruins every day. There is no good explanation for this, because even if we take into account ruins further away, it wouldn't matter because there seems to be a constant stream of this stuff into the city. So let's add supplying Dwemer metal to the list of things the mysterious Apple Wine Guild does. Either that, or Ulfberth here is selling me some fake ingots. I got my eye on you, Warbear. Next on our list is the Drunken Huntsman. This establishment sells a few food items, weapons, and armor, and is run by Elrendir. I probably said that wrong, didn't I? It's probable that he makes his own bows, but it doesn't seem like he forges anything. So, most likely he is purchasing weapons and armor from either the Skyforge or War Maidens. And the food he purchases from Carlotta. He's a pretty simple case. Except for the fact that he sells carrots, because guess what? Like apples, you cannot find carrots being grown anywhere in Skyrim. Talos, dang it, Todd, you could have had it so that just a few farms were growing carrots and a bit less cabbage. And carrots would have totally worked in Skyrim too. Carrots actually do pretty good in the cold and even taste better when grown with light frost, and Skyrim is covered in that. They prefer full or partial sunlight and do well in climates of 55 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 12 to 24 degrees Celsius, which Skyrim likely reaches, at least in some areas, during parts of the year. I mean, carrots can grow in Florida and Wisconsin within the US, so they can handle a lot of various climates in terms of heat and cold. So why not swap out some cabbages for carrots, Todd? And cabbages suck compared to carrots anyways. It's the most worthless of RPG foods and tastes terrible. Even RuneScape agrees with me. What's with your obsession with cabbages, Todd? And why did you hide the origins of carrots within Skyrim behind the hidden Apple Wine Dwemer Metal Guild that seemingly controls Skyrim from the shadows? I am so close to blowing the lid on this secret guild. But first, let's check on Fralia Greymane, who sells jewelry. Fralia is simple enough, as her stock is slowly refilled over time, so it's likely that she's just selling her own jewelry, or simply purchasing jewelry from travelers and traders that come into the city over time, since it seems like she doesn't have a continuous stock of items. And while it is possible to import gold and silver into the city, that's a moot point because I don't see a single person in Whiterun that seems to work in jewelry crafting. Jewelry may be crafted in a forge like weapons, but just because someone can forge a sword does not mean they know how to forge a necklace. There are different skills in RuneScape for a reason, so trading over time seems like the more likely of options. And so that leaves Arcadia's Cauldron and its dark secret. Arcadia may seem like a weak, unremarkable shopkeep, but she seemingly runs the most complex network of imports in the city. She obviously sells all kinds of alchemic ingredients, from the common wheat to troll fat and garlic. Another plant that cannot be found growing anywhere in Skyrim, but is practically made to be grown here. But we're going to ignore that for now, because Arcadia has so much to unpack. Let's just assume that the vampires destroyed all of the growing garlic right before the game started. I take that back, I forgot that vampires are not weak to garlic in the Elder Scrolls series. God, there are just so many different rules for vampires in media, it's hard to keep track of all of them. For some of her ingredients, she can most definitely forage them herself, such as lavender or whitecaps. But then there are the rarer and more hard to get items for an old lady, such as dwarven oil or spider eggs. I don't think that she's spelunking into caves or ruins to steal spider eggs. No, she needs a method to keep her stock up consistently, so we can break it down into this. She hires local foragers to gather plants and herbs. Hunters procure her more dangerous items like troll fat or skeever tails. Oh my god. You're here too? Get out of here! Then adventurers are contracted to deliver her rarer monster drops and items like vampire dust, which nearly always drops from vampires. And then she imports more regional ingredients from other cities or traveling caravans. She is at the center of all these different networks of trade, and I think I know why. She is the head of the secret shadow guild that is hiding specific items in Skyrim. I mean, she sells garlic, which cannot be found growing anywhere else, but she also sells dwarven oil. How does she get that if all of the ruins are locked off or in the hands of bandits? She also sells Alto wine, yet another item we don't see being produced anywhere out in the open. She is the leader of the most secret group in all of Skyrim. The guild that controls trade all throughout Skyrim and keeps hidden key items of the region such as apples and wine so that they can make a huge profit off of a monopoly of their creation. I'm on to you, Arcadia, and this video will be proof for all to see of your secret dealings. Thank you for watching this report on how Arcadia is running an illegal monopoly within Skyrim. Let me know what you think of this trade network as well, because I may have missed something here or there since the shop's inventories change every time you load the game, so it's definitely possible I overlooked something. And please, like and subscribe so that others can learn of Arcadia's misdeeds, and comment down below any other games that you want me to look into. And if I never upload again, it's because Arcadia got to me to silence the truth. Be safe out there, y'all, and stay awesome.